Hello, and welcome to the Innovia Conversation. I'm Steve Waltz.
And I'm Jeff Pergolski.
And Jeff, today we have the big kahuna of Innovia. We have our CEO, Alan Wyne.
Woohoo! Welcome, Alan.
Good morning.
Very funny. Yes. Can't even spell kahuna, so we're good on that one.
All right. So,
well, we're excited to have you on there, and I think, Alan, we've been a little busy recently. I heard we acquired another company.
We did. We have been talking with the owner of DMS, a Canadian company, for probably 5 years, on and off, just discussing it. He has a NAV Business Central practice that is a much smaller part of his overall business. DMS is the parent company of InsightWorks. So Mark finally got to the point where he's like, look, I'd really like to spin this part of the business off the NAV and the BC practice and focus much more exclusively on my ISV practice that, it obviously has gone exceedingly well for him. Innovia sells a large amount of that product to a lot of our customers. He's international in how he sells that. So, he called me up, about 4 or 5 months ago and said, okay, I'm finally ready. And, it went pretty quick. We had conversations through it and got probably about 45 customers at various levels of activity with the deal, and acquired 4 additional staff members for Innovia at this point. So it was a very good process and very quick process, and the employees are working out fantastic. And, we've gotten up there to visit customers, and they're all excited about what Innovia can bring to the table. So it was an exciting move for all of us, especially getting a Canadian presence.
Great. And I know you said you've been talking for years. So what were the synergies that stood out that made this a good partnership?
So Mark's company runs very similar to ours. It's a small concept, a cultural concept of take really good care of your employees, take really good care of your customers, try to be on the leading edge of technology with that. And, obviously Innovia does the same thing, and both companies have grown at a substantial pace over the last 4 or 5 years. And, so it was a matter of what we say frequently at Innovia, which is play to your strengths. Mark's strength and DMSI was his ISV. Our strength is NAV and BC. It's what we do. It's what we stay focused on. It's one of our touchstones of how we talk about our company. It's all we do. And to be great at something, you got to focus on it. So, from that standpoint, it finally worked out perfectly. He could comfortably give up customers and employees to somebody he trusts. And, we could trust him and what he said about them and how they worked, and make sure the transition was smooth. And it has been very smooth. And so while financial synergies, were we able to not have an extra AP clerk or some? No, that doesn't happen. But it was definitely how we both grow our businesses and continue to focus. And that was bigger than anything. And it's not an insignificant number of dollars in customers that he had going up there. So, it's a good way for us to really get a good Canadian presence and then continue to build on that.
So with the 4 we acquired, the consultants, and how many Canadian employees do we have now?
Yeah, you would ask me that. You have to ask I think we are probably at 8 or 9 would be my guess.
Okay.
So those 4, and then ones that we had already hired and utilized in our United States practice. So yeah, it's growing, and we look to probably next year bring on, I would say, depending on how projects go, maybe 2 more application consultants to the team that is up there that focus on these customers that we acquired. I don't anticipate shifting the people that we had already hired that were in Canada, because they're on teams already. But certainly we'll be able to utilize teams that are based in the U.S. to work on Canadian projects, and the Canadian teams as we continue to grow that one that work and work occasionally on U.S. based products or projects.
It's nice. I know we had some emails going back and forth when we acquired them, and they have somewhat different names and terms in Canada. I did not see the word hoser show up.
No, it was nice. It was nice
to be out of date, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to watch the interaction between the two groups, right? I mean, we want this to be one company. We always have wanted it to be one company. We do have a separate legal presence up there, which is necessary for how we do business. But, we treat this just as another team of application and developers and PMs, like they were all just based in the US. So watching the jokes fly back and forth, the comments about various terms, it is good. And, probably the most interesting thing from my perspective is, all of a sudden we have a whole group of different holidays that we actually, we've been giving them to the Canadian employees anyway. It's just, there's more of them now. And all of a sudden they're not working on a Monday. It's like, why not? It's like, well, it's another one of their holidays. So, we're getting there.
Nice. Jeff, it sounds like more accounts for you to demo to.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right. Actually, I think it's been more interesting from a licensing perspective. We've got currencies, we've got price sheets, we've got a partner. I guess we've had for a number of years. We've had a partner. Our Innovia NA partner instance up there. So I've occasionally had to sign in. But yeah, it's as much as what we do is been international for a number of years. Certainly having a more established presence there and getting more expertise on everything Canadian is going to help our north of the border opportunities. So excited about that.
And I think, U.S. synergies and other things, while, Canada would never admit to being, part of the U.S. and the U.S. would never admit to being part of Canada, it's an easy way for us to be international and learn more of the rules of the road, not just I've got the ability to sell licenses in the Netherlands, but now I actually have employees and presence. I have salespeople, I have PMs, I have everything that is necessary for a business in a separate country with all the nuances that go along with that. How do you deal with the government? The tax structure is completely different. And these are all things we needed to learn how to do in a very controlled way. And this gives us that capability so that at some point, if we have an opportunity to expand to another country, that is not Canada, but somewhere probably over in the EU, and I don't have anything on the horizon. But if we do, at least we've gone through this one, and it's been a little easier to navigate from that perspective. An interesting little side note: we had that Innovia North America entity for several years, anticipating that we were going to buy somebody up there at some point. And finally this year, we were just like, all right, just close it. This is ridiculous. It's just costing us fees. There's no reason to keep it open. And we had started the process of closing it. And like 2 days later, Mark gave me a call. He's like, hey, I'm ready to sell. And I was just like, crap. So we got Brian on the phone real quick. And he's like, yeah, I didn't get it completely done yet. Sorry about that. It's like, well, stop. I don't want you to do it anymore. So best laid plans.
Yeah. On that note of having a Canadian presence, I wonder, will that make it easier for people like you and I, Alan, who have had trouble in the past making it into Canada for business?
Nope.
Will it make it any easier?
I can tell you that my trip up there to sign all the documentation and get this thing completed was an unmitigated disaster. I mean, it took me forever. So we won't go into all the gory details of why I have so much trouble getting through Canadian customs, but
I'm sure it doesn't have to have anything to do with your sunshine-like personality. I'm sure it's not.
No, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I don't know why they don't let me in. So I have nothing good in a public way to say about, nothing other than good things to say about the immigration service in Canada.
That's good. I'm sure. I'm sure everyone that's watching appreciates that, including both sets of government entities. Hi, guys.
Yeah, you and I,
Right.
we're kind of stuck. Tom and Kevin have made it, and Gary all made it up there just fine. So I guess it's just you and me, Jeff.
Must be the I won't seek any correlations between us that lead to that issue, but so that's exciting, and Innovia is growing. What else are we doing in terms of growth, and besides Steve, bringing in a bunch of new clients?
Right. Well, we're continuing down that path. I think, we have talked at length about our business model, and does it scale, and do we see good runway, good growth on it? And, as awful as this is going to sound, it's a real good market from the standpoint of there's always somebody out there screwing up an implementation that, we get to pick up the pieces and fix, or somebody outgrows a VAR, because there's a lot of small ones. I mean, so there's a lot of good growth opportunity for us to continue just to pick up free agents on a nice pace and continue to grow. I mean, with this acquisition, we're at over 350 customers now, so it's a big number, and that's just Nav and Business Central. I mean, that's it. So, from a standpoint of if there are a group of VARs that are just targeted for Nav and Business Central in the world, we're way up that list. We very easily could be topping that list in the U.S. Now there's VARs that have F&O or whatever they call it now, and CRM and everything else, and we just don't play, and they're much bigger than we are, but we don't play in that particular game. One of the things that we have found is as we grow that way, I still need staff, and I continue to need additional staff. And it gets harder and harder to hire that staff because it's a competitive environment. You've got a lot of GP vendors who are now bringing in Business Central, and so they're looking for the same people that I am. So this year we decided to create Innovia University, and starting in June, our first 4 students have gone through it now. They graduated last month, and they are now what we would consider junior application consultants. They know the basics of it. They understand our processes and procedures, and they have just a good method for being able to step into a team and start to be mentored in a way that allows them that hopefully sometime next year they'll effectively go back into class for a few months in not nearly as tight of a way, because they'll still have projects to be working on, but they'll be able to raise their level of skills to the mid level of an application consultant. And so we're really excited about that. We have invested heavily in it. It's a way to grow our own consultants, and we look to expand that to other areas of our business. So this year has been a big investment year for us. We've done that with the students, and we took one of our lead ACs out to lead that school. We invested heavily in terms of just getting the curriculum going and all those other things. We've been working on our process and procedures, and next year our goal is to grow at the proper pace and really solidify all those things that make a company great. And we're excited about it. I mean, it's a good way for us to continue to grow this business, and to take ourselves to the next level now, which is quite a bit higher than what it's been in the past.
And training our own consultants, because a lot of the times when I'm talking with folks that are considered Innovia, a lot of the partners seem to be more of a break fix partner, and we're really not that break fix partner. I mean we help people get their systems back, but it's that mindset of I want you to do this versus say sure, we'll go ahead and do it, but we have that culture of okay, there might be another way. Why do you want to do it? And it's great to see that, because it is interesting in the channel how many folks that come over to Innovia never had that.
Right. And it is, one of our consultants, his name was John Grant, used to always call me and go, we need to remember we have two parts to our name, Innovia and consulting. And, how do we consult with these people? It's exactly what you just described, Steve, which is this is, we look at your business and we try to be a valued partner in that business to help you grow that business and not let you go down ways that we know are just fundamentally wrong. And so, finding people who have that mindset that want to work with customers that way is, can be challenging. Finding people who have enough of what we would call the soft skills, which is, look, you've got all the knowledge in how to do operations in BC or finance in BC, but there's that middle ground. The middle ground just takes some years of work. You had to have been in the trenches. You needed to be here for a long time and have gone through a lot of different scenarios to be able to answer the questions, but more importantly, ask the right questions. And that's the difference from our perspective between a mid-level application consultant and a senior application consultant. And, when we stepped back and looked at how we did things best, the people who've been here a long time and have grown with us, that's something we can control, and it works really, really well for us. So, as we grow the company, employees are one piece, customers are another, and they have to go in a level that is balanced. And, that's why when we acquire a company or acquire something like we did with DMS, which is just a practice, we like to get their employees too, because I just can't throw 50 customers into the mix. We need those valued employees. And frankly, when you really look at it, they're almost more valuable than the customer base sometimes, because, we really build on their skills to help us with everything else. And there's plenty of work out there. Sales team does a great job of bringing it in, but there's a lot of business out there for us.
Yeah, when you look at the numbers, I think the last I heard, there's about 230 to 240,000 clients running Nav or Business Central in the world, and about 10% are in North America, and that's still that's a large number.
Right, and when and the number we hear is that 30% of them at any given time are looking for a new VAR. And you look at our customer base. 30% of our customer base are now looking for a new VAR. We rarely lose somebody. And when we do, frequently, it's because they got bought and they had to move to, and the parent company went, yeah, that's great, but you're going to SAP or Oracle or whatever our international group has on it. So, it's rare that we do a misstep and we see a customer go away. So that just shows you how well we do our jobs and how extraordinarily good this team is. And I can never say enough about how good this team does their work. And I mean that from just a company-wide standpoint. As leaders and as members of a team, you always want to improve. And so unfortunately, you start focusing on the one mistake. He's like, crap, how'd we do that? And you forget about the 99 that you did flawlessly. We were joking the other day, and I was talking to Jim Augustine, and I said it's funny because 6-7 years ago we did 5 implementations or go lives, maybe in a half a year or even a year, and it was all hands on deck, and everybody was worried, and the whole company was like, oh god, we got to go live going. Today we do 4 or 5. We can do 4 or 5 in a month, and I don't even hear about them. They just happen, right? And that's just how good our teams have gotten. And in comparison to everybody else that's out there that we compete with, I mean, we're the top of the board, but we continue to look for ways to improve. And, it's just the nature of the beast.
So you started out as a member of the sales team. Then after, I don't know why, the real reason why Alan left the sales team, but
I don't know. You hired in about a year after, about a year before I left. So maybe it was that.
We know why he did, Jeff. I mean, when he took over, you went to be the COO, and now you're the CEO, and that's probably been in a 6-year span, Alan. Is there any aha moments you've had in there to where it's like, wow, I went from starting to here, to get to here? Was there a moment in time where you're like, this is the path we're going to go? Or
it's funny. So from a personal standpoint, those first couple of years as CEO, I was always worried that everybody'd figure out I really didn't know what I was doing, and it was like, yeah, okay, you've been faking it the whole time. So we need to find somebody that's smarter than you.
So we got to bring him back in sales now, Jeff.
Yeah. Oh God. After that, I realized that, I kind of did have a decent idea of what I was supposed to be doing in this job. But more importantly, I had an extremely strong team, both at leadership and then all the way down through the company. And that really was an aha moment, because it's like, okay, you know what, we've got a solid foundation. And this is probably 4 years ago, where we were about 35, 40 employees and I don't know, maybe 70 or 80 customers. And, we just sat back and went, okay, well, we're strong enough now that we can actually start go out and acquire people. We're strong enough structurally, we're strong enough financially, and now we can really grow the company. And there's a limit, there's a point where you're just like, okay, that's about as far as we want to grow it, but we're not there yet. And you don't grow just for the sake of growing. You got to grow for the sake of profitability, and for revenue. I mean, ultimately, our job is to make profits for the owner of the company. But, when I realized that we could continue to expand this company and not risk it because of the quality of the staff I had and because of where we had finally gotten to, I mean, that was a big deal, and then as a company, you just realize, just how every time we acquire somebody, we realize how good we are. And those are many aha moments. I think the other ones are just watching, the sales staff and how the size of the deals they bring in. And, when you started, a free agent would come in and they'd have a few support tickets, right? Or maybe just not going to do anything for 6 months. We got their annual enhancement. And now, you and Jim bring in a free agent and they have a laundry list, and it's several hundred hours that they want done immediately. I mean, that's a fundamental shift in how we do business. Another moment in our company structure that just goes, wow, that's cool. And that's impressive. And delivery can then deliver that, which is even more impressive. So it's been an interesting journey, watching and, guiding this company in terms of watching it grow in these ways, in these bigger leaps. So it's fun. I'm still enjoying it.
And I think so. Just for our listeners, when Alan says the word free agent, the two words, it's somebody that was already on the system with another partner that was looking for another partner. And I think Alan, what sticks out is when that started happening, because it would usually they would come over and wanted to make sure we are who we said we were, and that we could do the work and support them, and then kind of go into a project. But just the last several years, and I don't know if it's because of the licensing model where MSPs can sell licenses to clients that are running Business Central, but we had to make decisions and almost pivot to where, all right, they're coming in and they're in pain, but we can't disrupt the rest of our business. And I think how we've grown the support team and kind of restructured some of our folks on the delivery side, we're able to help those clients because, I mean, a lot of them, some of them needed some help yesterday, right? and a lot of partners aren't really built that way to do it because, every partner likes to take their resources and have them booked out several months. And so, when I have these conversations with folks or when we do as a sales team, I think a lot of them, they I almost forget because we've been doing it now for so long. They're like, can you handle this? Right. And I think it's been it's been fun to watch that, how we've put processes in place and the right people and the right roles and the right teams so we could actually help those clients on board them and make that journey for them.
Yeah.
Journey.
And we've gone through the stages that businesses go through, and we still have multiples to go through. But, there's that $2 million stage, and then there's the 5 million, and then the 10, and then the 20. And as you crest and go through each one of those barriers, your process of procedures get strained, and you have to redesign them, and your staff changes and how you interact, and the rules of the road with HR. You crest 100 people, whole world changes. You crest 50, it changes. Crest 100, it changes dramatically. And we're there. And so we're not only are we having to adjust how we interact with the customers, but we've had to change and adjust the support mechanisms we have in dealing with our employees and making sure that they're protected, they're happy. Donovan, the owner of the company, his famous line, reasonably happy most of the time. For the vast majority of us, this is a job, myself included. It's not my life, it's a job. You want to be reasonably happy most of the time at your job because you're there a lot. And I think that, it's a goal that ironically is a little harder to attain than you realize, but I think in general, we do a pretty stinking good job of it. And, we see that in the feedback we get from the employees. And so, managing the growth of a company is an interesting process. Managing it profitably is an interesting process, and keeping people happy. In this day and age, we know what it's like keeping employees, and we do a good job of that too. So I'm very proud of this company at this point of where the team is at and how it's done it. And we're really in good shape, to lead us into the next, 5-10 years, which is how I see things. I look 5-10 years out, even though I'm way too old and I won't be
having that strategic mindset is kind of important. And I think, think about it, Jeff, since you've been the pre-sales engineer for our team, you've probably seen everything, right? Because just the transformation of just doing demos for our current clients, now you're doing demos for everything, right? You're dealing with people that are new to Microsoft and on an old system. And I was kind of curious to hear, like, when you see clients coming in that are on a real old version and you show them the new version on it, what's the initial reaction? Are they like in awe of all the capabilities, or are they still want to rebuild the old system?
Yeah, I think that I sense that we always have a discovery call in the process of setting up the demo and getting an idea of, sometimes it's just one or two features that the new version has that is life-changing to their organization. Sometimes, there are people that are from the "Don't Move My Cheese" division, and it's like they don't want to do things different because they've struggled with the system for so long, and they know. But it's definitely with all that Microsoft is doing to that maybe is somewhat tied to our success and growth, but Microsoft adds functionality and grows their platform of Dynamics and Microsoft 365. We're obviously hitched our way up to that, and I think that certainly there's all of these really cool things that I get to show in the demo, and it makes my job fun. So there's a little, there's something in it for everyone. And mostly, I'd say most of my demos are for, the new to Microsoft opportunities, and Andrew is bringing them in. And when you hear a lot of feedback about comparing this to other systems that are out there, and when you show how all the cool integrations with the rest of the Microsoft 365 platform, it really does, like you like to say, I've heard you say internally at least, that, Steve, about how easy your job is. All you've got to do is sell Innovia and our great resources. So I want to sort of shift the discussion back to that. And I was doing some math in my head when we were talking about, so you said there's like 240,000 NAV instances or NAV BC instances in the world. 10% of that is in the US. That's like 23,000 at any one time. 30% of those are looking for a new partner. It's like 7,000. So,
No,
so
Alan's going to raise my
7,000
quota.
companies.
You don't need to do the numbers.
That's where I'm going with this. Like I'm saying, you get like 1% of 7,000 is 70, Steve. Like I think you can hit 1% this year. So let's set that for the goal of 2023.
but you know, the numbers are it's controlled growth, right? Because you know, one of the things that you know, coming from the pharma industry, I thought getting people to change, like writing prescriptions, was hard. You know, and you know, this whole sense of change management that we deal with, because it's easier to stay with the devil you know versus you don't know, and some people will fight change to the end, and you know, and ERP can be tough, right? Because we're people. It's, you know, we just went live on a system that we've been trying to go live on for our ticketing. You know, and we do this for a living. And Alan, you saw, you know, I think it opens our eyes to the internal challenges that our clients deal with. But there's a lot of fear, you know, on changing systems and moving forward. And I hear firsthand from a lot of folks, because especially if they had either, you know, their system, you know, either bought from the low bidder, or they didn't really do a good job up front of building that blueprint to make the system do what they want. But you know, it is interesting, the conversations I have with, you know, with some of those. You talked about those numbers, and I think of when I first got hired on with Tom, we went up to Wisconsin, and and I think, Jeff, you might even have been there. And the owner of the company said, "Can you install it on Friday, and Monday flip the switch and it will work?" And it was one of the most complex systems. Remember, the guy had the twine on his shipping thing. It was like everywhere from there. And I you know, it's you got to make the decision. Do you have to give reality therapy, or say, "Well, that's not going to work"? Maybe can you push it out another week or two?
Yeah. Give me 2 more days.
Give me 2 more days. But yeah, those are. But you're right. The numbers are large, and I think, you know, where Alan kind of talked about, like, so Alan, we're about 100 folks now.
Yeah. We're between Canada and the U.S. and Colombia. We top 100.
We're at 100. And what's the typical size of a Microsoft Business Central NAV partner?
So I would say they're probably anywhere from somebody of note. You know, it's not just 2 guys. I would say probably 5 to 15. You know, of people who are just NAV, NBC. You know, so you get the guys that, you know, are selling all kinds of other stuff too, and they can be in the hundreds or thousands. But, you know, for a typical in our industry, yeah, it's going to be. And my mower's going by, so you guys get to listen to the mower. That's, you know, that's pretty typical. And when we look at acquisitions, we're looking at the 5 to 20 person company and they'll probably do anywhere from a low of $2 million a year to a high of, you know, maybe 5-ish, right around there. So, you know, it's tough. I mean, it's hard to build a practice, and it's hard to find the staff to do it with. I mean, it was interesting, you know, Jeff was here when I hired in, and it was you, me, and Freya. You know, that was the sum total of the sales team at that point. And, you know, the business was already changing at that point to be the free agent model. And we've had a number of competitors who have tried to do what we do, and they just can't. They just don't know how to do it, because most of the industry is geared towards selling net new. I want to sell net new seats. And back then it was new software, because that's where you got your big dollars. You sold a lot of software and it was worth a lot. We just don't do that, you know, and it's hard for people to make that change. I'm going to mic myself real quick here. Hang on.
Wow, I thought he'd never stop talking, Steve. You got to pay those mower guys more.
Oh, the mower guy went back, Jeff. He just went by.
So it's tough. What we do is hard. What we do is hard when we work with our customers and helping them through these navigations. What we also do is just the way we structure our business is hard for a company to make that pivot. And it took us a lot of years to make it, but that's why we don't have a lot of competitors doing this.
It's you know, I was thinking of the Southwest model, right? Because they can get people on planes and off planes quicker than anybody, you know, and as a salesperson, you could cancel up to an hour before. They make it real easy to deal with them. and people try to copy them, but you have to actually have the same type of culture, and you can't miss a step. And we always talk about how the investment in the customer engagement team, right? That we don't sit there wait for you to call us. We're engaged with you. We're going on site, and you don't get a bill for that.
Right.
And that's an investment that you and Donovan have put into the organization. It's kind of a give back. I tell clients, and also, think about the customer conference, and we had a huge attendance. Almost 300 people at the customer conference, and they'll ask me, so we don't have to pay to come to this.
Right.
You have to pay for your transportation, but outside of that, it is a give back, and that's what make that model work. Is that we, and Thomas said it. When you truly say partnership, when only one person's investing, it's not a partnership. So it's when both parties invest into that relationship. So I know we're coming up on time. Alan, is there anything else I could talk about recapping this year or going into next year?
I think we look for a really good next year. I mean, we're, much to the leadership team's chagrin, we're in budget time. So, they're all having to work kind of hard to figure out budgets for me to actually approve. But, it's a solid year for us, even with the economy, the way it's doing its flaky stuff. We look for this to be a real good 2023 and a nice growth for us, and continue the path that we're growing right now. So I'm excited. We're going to get there, and we're looking forward to it.
Alan, we appreciate your time. For all our clients that are listening, we appreciate your business and the opportunity to serve you. And as always, you can find the podcast on the Innovia website or all the different podcast apps that are out there. And Jeff, this podcast is over.